All right, greetings and salutations. I'm Kevin. I'm a civilized sports goblin with a bright idea. The top 100 players from each of the 124 Big Four sports franchises. Right now, I'm working on the Houston Astros and the Golden State Warriors. Now, if you don't like the Astros or the Warriors, I'm going to encourage you to stick around because I'll get around to it. For now, though, let's get on with the show. There are star games and then there are signature games. This isn't the night that Craig Wilson, this isn't the night that Craig Reynolds becomes Reggie Jackson. It's better than that. This is the night that Craig Reynolds becomes more Craig Reynolds than Craig Reynolds has ever been before. 3 triples in the Astrodome, 4 RBI. A shortstop's game played at full speed on a fast field in a big room with Nolan Ryan looming behind him like a weather system. That's what makes this game so interesting. Because if you only know the big names, you look at a game like this and think it belongs to Ryan. And yes, the Ryan Express was excellent, but this game belonged to the other guy, the Houston born shortstop, the steady one, the one whose job is usually to make the night fit together neatly and then disappear to the architecture. On May 16, 1981, Craig Reynolds did not disappear. He turned a regular season Saturday in May into one of the strangest, most Craig Reynolds box scores that you'll ever see. Houston beats the Cubs 6-1 in the Astrodome. Reynolds goes 4 for 5 with 3 triples and 4 RBI. He tied the major league mark for triples in a game. Ryan worked for 7 innings, allowed 1 unearned run, and struck out 8, while Joe Sambito finished the last 2 innings for the save. Welcome back to the Astro 100. I'm documenting 1 game per player until I reach 100. Today's player is Craig Reynolds, and today's game is May 16th, 1981. Chicago Cubs at Houston Astros. It was a 6-1 Astros win at the Astrodome. And this is a useful episode because it lets us do 2 things at once. First, we get Nolan Ryan on the mound, which means the game already carries that low industrial hum before the first pitch is even served. Second, we get a reminder. Baseball history is not made only by Hall of Famers and MVP winners. Sometimes it's made by a hometown shortstop whose best skill is that he understands exactly what kind of player he is and then plays that way all night long. Reynolds was a Houston native, a first-round pick out of Reagan High School, a former expansion Mariner, a 2-time All-Star, and by 1981, he was settling into what would become an 11-year Astro run. The Astros came into this one as the defending NL West champs from 1980. It was the club Bill Verdon had pushed to the franchise's first postseason appearance since before that brutal NLCS loss to Philadelphia. But the mid-May of 1981, Houston was not cruising. This win moves them to 17-18. Good pitching and a real pedigree and real expectations, but not a clean start. The opener of this series had gone Houston's way, 5-0. This win made it 2 straight, with a chance to sweep the next day and climb back towards even. The Cubs were in worse shape. This loss dropped them to 5-24. And search records show that date they were already on a 6-game losing streak. Joey Amalfitano's club was buried early, and the 1981 Cubs would stay buried. They finished the year 38-65 overall, last in the NL East first half and 5th in the second half. This is not a good team wandering into bad luck. This is the bad team already wearing the look of a bad team. So that's your room temperature. Houston has pressure and unfinished business. Chicago has frustration and drift. One club's trying to remember it's dangerous. The other's trying not to sink through the floor. Now, this is a terrific baseball week to drop into because the whole sport already feels electrically strange. The night before this game, Len Barker threw a perfect game for Cleveland against Toronto. 2 days before that, Fernando Valenzuela had pushed Fernando Mania to 8-0 with yet another complete game. Less than a week before that, Charlie Lay of Montreal had also thrown a no-hitter. So when this game begins, baseball's already in one of those moods where the sport seems to be producing a new headline every 48 hours. And that matters for our script here because it gives the whole episode a texture. This isn't the sleepy May game in the empty corner of the calendar. This is a week when pitching is dominating headlines. Aces feel mythic, and when a shortstop ripping 3 triples in the dome somehow fits right in. Bill Verdon in the Houston dugout is one of those men whose baseball life is so full, sometimes it seems fictional. He was the 1955 National League Rookie of the Year, won a Gold Glove in center field, played on the 1960 World Champion Pirates, then became a manager who was respected for discipline, fundamentals, and competitive seriousness. In Houston, he won another Manager of the Year honor after guiding the Astros to that first postseason appearance in 1980. He's not a flamboyant figure. He's a shape the room type of figure. Now, across from him is Joey Amalfitano, born in San Pedro, a former utility infielder who had played for both the Houston Colt 45s and the Chicago Cubs, before later managing the Cubs from 1979 through 1981. That makes Amalfitano the cleanest bridge in this episode between the two franchises. When you ask whether there are common players to each team, the strongest answer is it's not an active player at all. It's the Cubs manager, a man who had worn both uniforms in the old National League. Then we get to the pitchers. Nolan Ryan had just signed with Houston before the 1980 season. In 1981, he would go on to lead the National League in earned run average at 1.69 and somehow not win the Cy Young Award. Don't get me started. By the end of his career, he would be a Hall of Famer with all-time records in strikeouts and no-hitters. On this night, he's already the central menace in the game, the one clear Hall of Fame gravitational pull in either lineup. Now, opposing him is Randy Martz, a 24-year-old right-hander from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He's a first-round Cubs pick out of South Carolina, still trying to become a real major league starter, rather than a prospect that people used to talk about. Our subplot is fit. Craig Reynolds is not built to dominate a game the way Mike Schmidt dominates a game. He's built to fit a certain environment perfectly. The Astrodome, with room in the gaps and speed on the surface, is one of those places where a line drive, legs first shortstop, can suddenly look like he's been engineered in a lab for one night just like this. Reynolds in 1981 was exactly that kind of player. He would finish tied for the NL lead with 12 triples, and this game is the loudest single proof of why. The other subplot is simpler. This is the Nolan Ryan game, in which the best offensive box score belongs to somebody else. That's always worth paying attention to. Now, since division realignment in 1969, these two clubs aren't even direct divisional rivals. What they are is an old National League acquaintance. Two franchises that know each other, but not in the intimate, venomous way that Houston knew Cincinnati in the late 1970s, or the way the Cubs would later know the Mets or the Cardinals. The contrast here is more aesthetic than hateful. Chicago's daylight, ivy, and old league messiness versus Houston's indoor modernism, turf, speed, and geometry. So the tension here isn't that these teams despise each other. It's that they come from two very different baseball worlds. That helps keep the script. It lets the game breathe. Craig Reynolds was born in Houston on December 27th, 1952. He started John H. Reagan High School. He was drafted in the first round by Pittsburgh in 1971, reached the majors in 1975, then became an inaugural Seattle Mariner before Houston brought him home in the deal that sent Floyd Bannister to Seattle. He made the American League All-Star team in 1978 with the Mariners and the National League All-Star team in 1979 with the Astros, and that alone tells you the kind of player he was. Not a superstar, but clearly a real player. His overall career line was modest: 256, 42 home runs, 377 RBI. But that undersells the value of the player. Reynolds was a steady, durable shortstop. He was a low strikeout hitter, high sacrifice worker, a useful runner, and a clean clubhouse fit. He spent 11 years with Houston and finished second only to Roger Metzger in Astros games played at shortstop. This game matters because it gives a player like that his bright, undeniable, unmistakable night. And the rest of his life after baseball is striking in a completely different way. Reynolds later went into wealth management with former teammate Terry Poole, and also became a pastor at Second Baptist in the Houston area. That gives this episode a nice long lens. A hometown athlete, hometown Astro, hometown working adult, hometown pastor. The Houston circle closes. Now this game opens with a warning. In the top of the first, Ivan DeJesus walks, steals second, and Bill Buckner walks. Suddenly, Nolan Ryan is dealing with traffic before he's even settled. Leon Durham's ground out pushes runners along, and Steve Henderson strikes out looking. That's your first reminder. Ryan can make danger evaporate without ever looking comfortable in the conventional sense. Then Houston comes up, and Craig Reynolds announces himself right away. Terry Poole pops out, then Reynolds triples to center. Just like that, the tying run is already standing 90 feet away with only one out. But Randy Martz gets Denny Walling on a grounder and Jose Cruz on a fly ball, and the Astros leave Reynolds right there at third. And that matters because Reynolds already did the hard part, and Houston still gets nothing. That lets the game keep the tension for a while. Houston scores first in the third, and the run is unearned. Randy Martz strikes out. DeJesus singles, steals second again. Joe Strain reaches on a Nolan Ryan error, and Buckner lifts a sacrifice fly to left. Cubs 1, Astros 0. It's the kind of run a losing team needs when facing Nolan Ryan. Cheap, opportunistic, ugly, and absolutely welcome. Houston threatens right back in the bottom of the third and leaves the bases loaded. Ryan singles to left and takes second on a Steve Henderson error. Poole moves Ryan to third. Reynolds reaches, Walling walks, and suddenly the Astros have the inning sitting right there. Then Jose Cruz bounces into a double play, and the score stays 1-0 Cubs. That's one of the real hinge points of the game. If Houston didn't waste that chance entirely, the night was going to feel different. Instead, it's just a delay, not a denial. So the real swing comes in the fifth. Rafael Landistoi strikes out. Nolan Ryan walks. Terry Poole singles, moving Ryan to second. Then Craig Reynolds lashes a triple to right field. Ryan and Poole score. Houston flips the game in one stroke. Doug Capella comes on, and Denny Walling adds a sacrifice fly to score Reynolds. What had been a frustrating, stranded opportunity kind of night becomes a 3-1 Astros lead. Reynolds doesn't just tie the game, he turns the room. That fifth inning triple is the center of the episode and the center of the game. And not because it was the prettiest swing, but because it's the most Craig Reynolds swing there is. No home run theater, no exaggerated myth, ball into space, runner legs, scoreboard changes, job done. Ryan's biggest jam comes in the seventh. Ken Wright doubles, Tim Blackwell singles into third. In a pinch hitter, Jim Tracy steps in and strikes out. Then DeJesus walks, and the bases are loaded with one out. The game is absolutely alive once again. But Ryan got strained and popped to center. No run, no collapse, no disaster. Just the ace stepping on the throat of the inning. Joe Sambito takes over in the eighth and gives Houston exactly what it needs. Calm. 3 fly ball outs in the eighth. In the bottom half, the Astros finally bury it. Art House singles, Alan Ashby singles, Rafael Landistoi makes an out, Gary Woods gets intentionally walked, and Terry Poole hits a sacrifice fly. Then Reynolds comes up and hits his third triple of the night. This one scoring Landistoi and Woods, and that makes it 6-1. By then the game is finished, even if the official outs are not. Reynolds has moved from big night to baseball record book night. Sambito closes the ninth after allowing 2 walks, but no runs. And the final score is Astros 6, Cubs 1. Reynolds finishes 4 for 5 with 4 RBI. Ryan gets the win, Sambito gets the save, and the Cubs leave 8 men on base and go 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Houston didn't bludgeon Chicago as much as outrun and out-execute them. Now, for a player like Reynolds, this is the kind of game that becomes shorthand. Not his whole career and not his whole identity, but it's shorthand. When somebody says Craig Reynolds, a lot of baseball fans are not going to recite a long list. They're going to say hometown shortstop, 2-time All-Star, steady Astro, and yes, the guy who hit 3 triples in a game once. That's what this night is to him. It gave him a permanent bright line. He also finished 1981 tied for the league lead with 12 triples, which makes this game feel less like a fluke and more like the loudest expression of a real skilled player. And emotionally, I think it had to do better because it happened in Houston and not in Seattle. Not on the road, at home, in the Dome. For the team that traded him and let him settle into himself. For Houston, this game was a stabilizer. It moved the Astros to 17-18, gave them a second straight win, and kept the Cubs from turning into one of those annoying soft pedal homestands where nothing clicks. They finish the sweep the next day to get to 500 and then stumble around a little bit in the first half before they catch fire in the second half and go 33-20. That's good enough to win the second half title in the split format for the strike. They reached the postseason again and lost the division series to the Dodgers in 5 games. So this game isn't the turning point of the season, but it lives inside the season's eventual competence. For Chicago, it's one more symptom. The Cubs are already bad. This was another night when the offense created some pressure, but couldn't cash enough of it, while the pitching staff was one inning away from survival, till Houston cracked the hitter, till one Houston hitter cracked the shape of the game wide open. Chicago stayed down all year, and this is the kind of baseball game that could turn an ordinary person into a brand new baseball fan. Because it contains almost every version of baseball pleasure in a single box. You get the ace, you get the underdog trying to steal one early. You get a bases loaded escape, speed, defense. You get a game where triples matter more than homers. And you get one player, and not necessarily a legend either, becoming unforgettable for one night. A new fan doesn't always need a 16-12 circus. Sometimes a new fan needs a game that teaches the sport geometry. Hit it into space, cut off the angle, take the extra base, escape the inning, turn the room with one swing that's not even a home run. This is a game that says baseball is not only about power, it's about shape. Bill Verdon got an aces start and a shortstop's masterpiece. The Cubs scratched first, but couldn't make Ryan bleed. Houston left chances on the table early, then let Reynolds turn the middle innings into a one-man track meet. By the end of the night, the Astros had won comfortably. The dome crowd had seen something rare, and the box score looked like it had been typed incorrectly. After this game, Reynolds kept doing Reynolds things. This season as a whole was odd because the strike split it right in half. But his place inside it was clear enough. Again, he finished tied for the NL lead with 12 triples, and Houston won this division's second half to get back to October. Over the longer arc, Reynolds stayed with the Astros through 1989, anchoring shortstop year after year in a way that doesn't usually earn national mythology, but he absolutely earns local memory. Then the after-baseball part of his story turned out to be just as rooted as the baseball part. Business with Terry Poole, ministry in Houston, a life that didn't scatter, a life that stayed close to home, close to Houston. Next time we jump sports and jump eras. All right. Warrior 4, Paul Horizon, March 29, 1956. So today was triples in the dome, speed on turf, and a shortstop signature night. Next time, we head into an old basketball time. A different pace, different shape, different kind of star. Same project, same idea. One player, one game. And the question of what a single night can reveal. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. That's Astro 28, Craig Reynolds, May 16th, 1981. He wasn't the loudest Astro, and he wasn't the most famous Astro. That wasn't the biggest swing in franchise history. But for one night, in one giant room, Craig Reynolds was the entire logic of Houston baseball made visible. Speed, angles, pitching, execution, and just enough weirdness to make the box score last forever. I'm documenting one game per player until I reach 100. This one was worth stopping for. Thanks for watching.